Hi, everyone, and welcome to OC Tanner's Culture by Design podcast, where we discuss the research, practices, and strategies to help employees everywhere thrive at work. My name is Annika Rapp, and I'm joined by Becca Schweitzer, who's a client strategist at OC Tanner. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for a company-wide recognition event. Think of those kind of major holidays like Employee Appreciation Day, or for our healthcare audience, Nurses in Hospital Week, or Truck Drivers Awareness Week, or whatever it might be. Or maybe you don't even want to have something that's tied to an industry event. Maybe it's time to celebrate all of our people. We're going to bring them together. We're going to do something great. So this is the conversation to kind of prepare you for how to pull that off successfully. Becca works with some of our lovely clients implementing very similar things at their organizations. But also, I want to turn it over to Becca to talk a little bit about her background and why she brings a wealth of experience to this discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. It's my pleasure to serve some of our largest clients as a client strategist. My background is in HR, and actually I have plenty of years actually of firsthand experience navigating employee events like this, putting them together, putting them on, cleaning up after all the things that go into something very detailed, but also so important and impactful.
All right, so like I mentioned a little bit, we're going to be talking about how to prepare for a company-wide recognition event. At the time of posting this episode, Employee Appreciation Day is coming up in March. But like I say, these aren't tips that just apply to Employee Appreciation Day. This could be any sort of company-wide recognition initiative that you want to pull off. So Becca is going to walk us through some of the top 3 things that you should keep in mind when you are planning for your next company-wide appreciation moment. So kind of set us up a little bit, Becca. So when you're planning for the event, we know that we need to do something like this. We know we need to pull something like this off with the entire organization. What are some of the things that you recommend for how you come up with ideas, how you can figure out the best time to schedule this recognition moment, or maybe some awards or gifts or giveaways or activities? How do you just kind of come up with ideas?
I think a couple of my top things I would say as far as planning goes, of course, referencing feedback. Like you will hear or maybe have heard feedback from employees and from leaders. What was difficult? What went well? You probably know as well in your own experience if this is a repeated event that you're doing, what was challenging for you, what was a really bad hiccup or a lesson learned. One example that I have that I remember is we learned that during our company-wide events for National Hospital Week, that people are just swinging by to get a snack, picking up a swag item, and something that takes time to put together. Like we had some awesome refreshments with homemade, fresh popped popcorn and cotton candy machine. Well, those things end up taking, time. People ended up standing in line. They took longer. The machine needs to be replenished. So we switched, years later to things that were just grab and go, already ready and packaged and easy. We know that people can't spend a ton of time at the event. They're coming and swinging through to grab something. So thinking through stuff like that, like what worked well, of course, is important. I think another thing that's really important to consider is what else is going on in the organization, especially if it's not tied to a particular holiday or appreciation week. What are our company goals for this year? What are we really focused on, like honing in on, improving? For some organizations, that's innovation. We are really trying to build our product pipeline. So how can we make an inspiring event that aligns to that? Maybe it's creativity focused. Maybe it's, we're wizards of innovation. I don't know, something fun like that. But helping it align to other things that are going on within your organization, I think actually really does help and maximize the impact. Um, and then, of course, just logistically, like involving other people and certainly people know this, checking calendars, certainly being mindful of what else is happening in the company is critical. And then, of course, you're going to have your budget and your details and specifics that will apply to your company. But thinking through some ways to do things creatively, I think can be sparked by what else are we talking about within our company and messages that we're trying to kind of reinforce and instill in our people. um, I think is really a wise direction
Hmm.
to go.
Yeah. Or even like a company anniversary that's coming up or a product launch, like all those sorts of things could be something that'd be
Love that.
very easy to
Yeah.
rally around.
And then I think thinking about what works best, harken back to the referencing feedback. And one of the things as I've gotten further away from the HR space and more into the technology space that we offer here at OC Tanner, I am becoming more and more convinced of the value of like an online selection because I'm thinking back and having some flashbacks to figuring out how to distribute t-shirts to every, 14,000 employees across the entire region of the state. So it is a lot of work to prepare and plan these events, and then it is so much sweat equity to distribute this stuff, especially if you're trying to do it within a budget parameter where we don't necessarily have a ton of wiggle room to like hire people to deliver stuff and hire like trucks to deploy so I think leaning into the technology advancements and allowing like that online digital platform to do some of that stuff for you, I'm more and more convinced that that's so valuable as I look back on my experience. I think what's also really great about that is you can instill some personal choice into that experience, which I think is really important. Um, it's very hard, and I'm sure our audience could probably relate to this. It's very hard to meet everyone's needs and find something that is desired, exciting, necessary, or useful for your people, where it becomes a meaningful investment. I can think of some specific things that we did for employees where some people raved about it and it was so impactful, and then other people, got called out on surveys that it was kind of a silly little thing that they didn't see much value in. So I think where you can instill some meaningful personal choice, where it's something that is of meaning to them, is amazing. I'll give you just one quick example of this from one of our clients, actually one of our recent breakthrough award winners here at OC Tanner. They actually deploy a appreciation day once a quarter for their employees across their company, which I think is really cool. Like it's not just once a year, it could actually even be more often than that. But they deploy these appreciation days and offer people an online portal to select a little thing. They're usually not super big. It's generally something that's maybe lower budget and also easily shipped, like something that doesn't cost too much to ship. In fact, maybe even electronic gift card or something like that. But people really look forward to these days every quarter, and they've gotten really positive feedback about them. And what's also cool is they switch up some of the theme or some of the why behind these quarterly appreciation days. And for example, one of them was, achieving a particular goal during a busy time within the organization. They made it kind of a coffee on us theme and gave everybody like a little gift card just to grab a Starbucks or to grab a um, smoothie or something like that, something that's meaningful for them. So I love that. And I like that it can be deployed easily and with some personal choice in the matter. And I don't think it takes away from the experience. I think there's still ways to incorporate meaningful messages. And we'll get into, I think, kind of my next tip on that, as far as how to make it truly meaningful when it is just like a digital
Mhm.
experience. But yeah, so that's my first key tip is thinking through the personalization
Yeah.
and not trying to take on too much as far as distribution goes,
Hmm.
if you can.
I might add on a little bit too, just like as an employee of OC Tanner, like our Employee Appreciation Day kind of celebration has taken on many different looks over the years. But one of my favorites has been that experience where we kind of are sent a lovely, heartfelt email from our executives, and there's a little link to go in and select from a variety of gifts, for really anything that makes most sense to you. So, Becca, you might choose a gift that's totally different than what I would choose. But that's what makes it even better because, like you say, you get something that's useful and meaningful to you personally. Totally love that. Love
Yeah.
that recommendation.
Yeah. So I think the other piece that's really, really important as I was thinking through this is is the role of the leader in these appreciation moments
Oh
and
yeah,
events.
absolutely.
Can I skip on to that next
Yes,
topic?
absolutely. I mean,
Okay,
that's
I'd
one of the
love to.
biggest things because I feel like leaders are, we talk about them being at the front lines of culture in a lot of different ways. And yeah, our leaders, I think, are the people that we need to rally around to make sure that when we roll out these company-wide recognition events, they're the ones that kind of deliver it for us on the front lines for our people that might not be connected or maybe just, yeah, might be far away from our HQ or from our HR team. So yeah, Becca, could you tell us a little bit more about how we can involve leaders, I guess, early on in the process to make this a really successful event?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every company is very unique in its population. And I really think it's the role of the leader who makes those events or appreciation moments or that recognition message extremely meaningful. So I think thinking about how do we make sure that we involve leaders both early on in kind of the planning process, if possible, and then also in the actual deployment. And so a couple of examples I'll share is um, this kind of party in a box concept. So this is something that I've done deployed in the past, in my experience, reaching a geographically dispersed workforce at lots of different sites and locations, where every team has a leader. And so we wanted to equip those leaders with all of the resources that you might need to celebrate this, appreciation week together with your team, because we know not everybody can make it to, this particular picnic or to this particular campus or this particular, conference center for lunch. For some populations, they can, and that would be really lovely for them to be able to do that. We know that in-person connection is desired and important, but for many, I think, especially offline workforce, they can't get away from their workstation, and so it's important to bring that celebration to them. I think what we were talking about with a digital experience is one way to do that. I think also equipping leaders with could be physical, like tangible resources. It could be giveaways, it could be snacks, it could be photo props, like things like that. It also could just be like messages and some tools. And maybe it's just even some ideas for leaders of like, how can you play how can you incorporate this in maybe your staff meeting this week? Maybe you can do a couple fun things through email to your team over the course of this week to make it fun every day. Just sharing ideas with them. Of course, giving them, I think they should have some ownership in creating this positive experience for their team in the way that they know their team might really enjoy. But I think it's really important to try to give them some messages and then also do what you can to maintain the integrity of the message that you, like as a corporate team, are working so hard to kind of share across your organization for a equitable experience from an equitable experience standpoint. So I love the party in a box idea to help equip leaders. Um, and then along with that, I don't think you can be too clear when it comes sometimes to communicating with leaders about what we as an organization are trying to do this week or in relation to this achievement or for this appreciation moment, both from like, here's how we're talking about it, but also literally like potentially instructions for leaders. We would really love for you to send out an email this week from you. Um, Here's kind of a rough outline, and we'd love for you to incorporate your own voice. Something like that. I don't think that leaders would, I think leaders would appreciate clear direction in that regard. I love the saying, to be clear is to be kind, especially where we know that the leaders have such an important role in deploying this with their teams. The corporate team can only do so much, and then it's really up to the leaders to carry it out. So I think giving them very clear prompts and helping them understand what actions they should take over the course of this week or this day and how to celebrate it within their team is really, really smart. And I would encourage like just some plenty of thought and effort around that. Partner with your marketing and communications team for that. Maybe you have a leadership development team that might have some interesting insight too from what they know that leaders might be navigating. So yeah, making sure that you're involving leaders and giving them tools is really important.
Yeah. And I like your point too about, our HR teams don't have to go it alone. They can reach out to leadership development. They can reach out to the leaders themselves. They can ask for feedback. It's not something that they have to come up with purely on their own, uh, I guess, thoughts that just kind of come to them. They
Yes.
can take, yeah, guidance and advice and recommendations from other people. And I do like the thought too of, yeah, keeping that very structured message solid, but being able to have that flexibility within, knowing how different populations work. It's very important to have, yeah, that flexibility with the leaders to be able to deliver that message in a meaningful way that they know is the meaningful way for their people as well. I think these are great tips for preparing for the event and making sure our leaders are involved, making sure that all of our employees, no matter how or where or when they work, are fully involved in the situation. They're hopefully delivering some very meaningful recognition moments for whatever day or event that the company chooses to celebrate. But I think one of the things that we like to focus on a lot at OC Tanner is you've done all this work to prepare for this event, whether it be Employee Appreciation Day, whether it be Nurses in Hospital Week, whatever that event might be. How do you keep that momentum moving forward? How do you take that investment, that time that you've put into it, and keep, I guess, keep the impact rolling and keep the recognition going? Because this can be a great way to kick off those kind of feelings of recognition. People are going to hopefully walk away from this moment feeling great, feeling appreciated, feeling like they belong here, feeling connected to that organization. How do you keep that going? And what are some recommendations you have for organizations to maximize that impact?
I love that question. I feel very passionate about this. The work that you're doing around this is very important, and it does truly make an impact to people, regardless of how much time and investment you can make in the event. It's communicating something, and the absence of it is also communicating something. So I just feel so passionate about the work that people do to plan these events and put them on, and the investment that companies are making in these types of events and moments. And that is why I say that as kind of a precursor to that is why I think maximizing and making the most of your captive audience who's coming by. I'm trying to think of any other time where you might have people from every single department swinging through the same room at your campus. Like, how can you make sure that they know about everything that's there for them from an appreciation standpoint? And I think there's some ways you can do this like in a fun way, as opposed to it transforming your event into something that's like more educational or serious. Like maybe it's like a contest of some sort to encourage these specific behaviors. Like we really want to create this wave of appreciation through our organization. So we're actually going to incentivize people to use the tools that we have for them to do that over the course of this week. So it might be, and then maybe we incentivize them by rewarding the people who gave the most recognition, or maybe it's we're incentivizing them to download a new tool or a mobile app that we're really wanting people to get. I've heard of a client of ours doing like a recognition wheel, just like a super fun spin the wheel situation at one of their events. And it was specifically with some questions or prompts about their recognition program, their employee recognition program. So it asked like questions along the lines of, do you know how to send an e-card? Do you know, have you accessed the mobile app or download the mobile app? There's some prompts. And when was the last time you gave recognition? Or do you remember who you received recognition from last? So there were all these prompts on the wheel that they could spin. And then she gave out prizes along with them. So it was a fun part of the event, but also she was using it as a way to literally like do some reconnaissance mission to understand like, do people even know about our platform? How familiar are they? When was the last time they used it? Just doing some um, getting some anecdotal feedback at the event. And I think was really cool. I think that's a really fun idea. I kind of wish I had had that idea, but I love that example. And then, certainly you can track attendance at these type of events, especially if it's more like benefits related or wellness related, where you are really wanting to understand how many people attended. I could see at an appreciation event, it might be a little bit harder to capture that, but at town halls and stuff, sometimes people literally, you have to take attendance at some things sometimes and reinforce their attendance or their participation in things with recognition following the event. And then that reinforces that behavior. They'll come back more. You'll have a bigger audience next time. You'll get even more like impact from your time that you're spending putting this on. So um, I like that idea of tracking attendance and then recognizing, people for particular behaviors during the event. And then a couple of other things like you can hand out prizes. One of our clients utilizes reward cards with that have recognition points tied to them as prizes at their town hall events. And then I love another moment that one of our clients did that was encouraging everybody like all at one time. It was a very captive, very, very large and very captive audience. Um, from the stage, the CEO said, I want today to be the biggest recognition day ever. I'm so happy about what we're celebrating together. This is so meaningful. And he encouraged everybody to get out their phones and to send recognition right in that moment, which I think is really, really cool and impactful. So I think it's, way that I would summarize that is incorporating those tools into your event and then using your event to educate or incentivize or reinforce those behaviors through your tools.
This has been great. Thank you, Becca. I know I didn't prepare you for this, but I do have a question based off of your background in HR and event planning and all that sort of stuff. What was your favorite event that you threw at your previous organization or that you pulled off?
I think my favorite event, most proud, biggest accomplishment, and most interesting, it stands out to me, was when we took our annual awards banquet to a completely online experience, at home experience during COVID. That was a whole new ball game. It required me to learn quite a bit. We had to engage different vendors than we ever had to work. We never had to kind of broadcast or webcast literally an event. Um, and I think people actually really appreciated the opportunity to have um, an at-home experience, and we actually ended up continuing that online broadcast experience in future years because people valued having a choice of whether they wanted to attend the event or just tune in online. We sent boxes to everybody's home so that they could have like snacks and a photo prop and like celebrate with their family. So I'm proud of it because it was something that I never saw coming, and really had to get creative and think outside the box. And it went off really well. So that one stands out to me. Um,
That's cool.
yeah.
You did it. You pulled it off. And it sounds like it worked so well that you continued to do it for a little bit longer. So
Yeah.
that's even better.
Yeah.
Took all those learnings and just kept it going. Amazing. All right. Well, this has been great. And thank you for all of your tips and recommendations, not only from your experience working with our clients, but also just your personal background in HR and event planning. Do you have just a little quick recap, main takeaways, those sorts of things?
Yes, absolutely. Quick recap. Um, Giving plenty of time, I think, for your planning and really trying to be intentional about reaching people, involving leaders in that process, or ensuring that leaders are equipped to deploy the experience that you're really trying to create. It's such a shame to spend so much time in the planning phase and really trying to think strategically and intentionally about how do we celebrate this together as an organization, and then to have it kind of flop in an execution if your leaders aren't well equipped. So I think really investing in the leader resources is critical. And then I think lastly, just thinking through how you can make the absolute most of the event that you're spending time and resources to invest in by connecting it to other things that are happening within your organization, maybe throughout the year as well, and other tools or other initiatives or other goals, um, that allows the impact of your one event that happens on, one day or one week to be maximized and extend well beyond that. And I think that's really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Becca. I really appreciate you sharing these insights with everybody. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Culture by Design. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of OC Tanner's Culture by Design podcast. OC Tanner is the global leader in software and services that improve workplace culture through meaningful employee recognition experiences. If you want your organization to become a place where people can't wait to come to work in the morning, go to octanner.com.